Hello, and thank you for tuning in to our international news broadcast. Right now, let's review the top stories currently capturing global attention.
Event number 1. Ukrainian forces used HIMARS to destroy ammunition depots of the Russian army in the occupied area. Event number 2. G7 opposes easing sanctions on Russia, determined to maintain pressure to protect Ukraine. Event number 3. The U.S. and Israel raided Iran's military infrastructure, destroying the Russian Il-76 transport plane.
And now, for the details.
Soldiers from the Ukrainian Armed Forces 15th Independent Artillery Reconnaissance Brigade spotted a Russian ammunition depot where troops were loading weapons and munitions from the warehouse onto 2 military trucks. The occupiers, detected by a drone, were immediately targeted by rocket artillery. A HIMARS multiple launch rocket system strike completely obliterated the depot, the nearby military trucks, and a large number of enemy combatants in a massive explosion. The incident occurred in a temporarily occupied enemy territory. It has become increasingly common for Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance units to detect Russian military facilities and personnel, and then relay the information to rocket artillery units. Based on this precise intelligence, strikes using multiple launch rocket systems, particularly HIMARS, have been carried out to destroy ammunition depots, military equipment, and enemy troop concentrations. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said on Friday that all other G7 nations disagreed with the U.S. move to ease sanctions on Russian oil. As you know, we had a virtual meeting with the G7 leaders on Wednesday, and 6 out of the 7 countries held a clear position that we should not lift the sanctions against Russia, Merz explained at a press conference in Bardufoss, Norway, alongside Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre and his Canadian counterpart Mark Carney. And we were a bit surprised to hear this morning that the U.S. administration has decided otherwise. This is certainly not our position, he said. According to the Associated Press, Norwegian Prime Minister Støre stated that pressure on Russia's energy sector must be consistently maintained to compel Moscow to end its hostilities in Ukraine. He said the pressure needs to be clearly felt by the Russian side, so they will come to the negotiating table, accept a ceasefire, and a just, sustainable peace. Quote, Canada's Carney also declared that his nation would maintain sanctions against Russia and its shadow fleet of oil tankers. A question from Catherine Tunney, CBC News. As you know, we had a virtual meeting with the G7 leaders on Wednesday, and 6 out of the 7 countries held a clear position that we should not ease sanctions against Russia. And we were a bit surprised to hear this morning that the U.S. administration has decided otherwise. On the issue of Iran, and also here with Russia, this is certainly not our position. We share the view of the 6 out of 7 countries that this should not happen because Russia is benefiting from it. And we see this from a different, more correct perspective. We should be putting much more pressure on Russia to end this brutal war as soon as possible. To answer your question about energy pressure, I think that no energy pressure on Russia should be lifted. It must be consistently maintained, and that pressure must be felt by the Russian side to get them to the negotiating table, to accept a ceasefire and a just and lasting peace. Prime Minister, did you request a meeting with President Macron regarding the U.S. decision? Canada's position is to maintain sanctions against Russia, including sanctions on the shadow fleet that is transporting this oil. There has been very close cooperation between Russia and Iran, causing enormous losses for the Ukrainian people and seriously threatening peace and security in Europe. The U.S. Air Force destroyed Russian-made Ilyushin Il-76 heavy transport aircraft at Ayatollah Hashemi Rafsanjani Airport in Kerman, southeastern Iran. U.S. Central Command released a video on Thursday showing airstrikes on the Ilyushin Il-76, a strategic transport aircraft used in Iran's military logistics network. Other aircraft parked at the site included Lockheed C-130 Hercules transport planes and a Lockheed P-3 Orion maritime patrol aircraft operated by Iran as the P-3F variant. Developed by the Soviet Union's Ilyushin Design Bureau, the Il-76 is a 4-engine strategic airlifter designed for transporting heavy cargo over long distances. The aircraft features a high-wing design, a T-tail configuration, and 4 turbofan engines, allowing it to operate from rough or unpaved runways. This design also keeps the engines and landing gear high off the ground, reducing the risk of foreign object damage. The IL-76MD model can carry approximately 40 to 47 tons of cargo and has a maximum takeoff weight of about 170 tons. Due to international sanctions restricting access to Western heavy-lift aircraft like the Boeing C-17 Globemaster III or the Airbus A400M Atlas, Iran relies on the IL-76 for its strategic transport operations. Within Iran's logistics network, These aircraft are used to transport heavy military equipment, missile components, engineering machinery, and large cargo containers over long distances. The destruction of the Il-76 aircraft at Kerman Airport comes amid ongoing coordinated U.S.-Israeli airstrikes in Iran, as the conflict between the parties enters its second week. The U.S. and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury in Iran on February 28, targeting the country's military, nuclear facilities, and senior officials. The attacks have involved coordinated strikes by the Israel Defense Forces and U.S. Armed Forces units against strategic targets in Tehran and other Iranian cities. Previous Israeli airstrikes have damaged Iranian military airfields, such as the base near Tabriz, where runways, hangars, and possibly aircraft were hit. In western Iran, several attack helicopters were destroyed at a military base in Kermanshah during earlier strikes targeting missile and weapons facilities. The airstrikes have caused widespread devastation to Iran's military infrastructure. According to some reports, Iran's cruise missile launches have decreased by 90% since the current conflict began,